From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure. Episode 711. Oh, that's one of my favorite things, going to 711. And today's episode is number 711 of our main show. It is Star Wars News, and I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Jen Landa. 7-Eleven. I haven't been to a 7-Eleven, but boy, I love their coffee. It's been a long time since I've had their coffee.
Look, let me tell you something.
Oh, okay.
7-Eleven coffee is underrated. It's, you know, you can go get your burnt coffee at Starbucks. You can go do that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, or you can go to 7-Eleven, get that blueberry coffee, maybe mix a little French vanilla coffee in it. $1.75. You're good to go. That's all you need.
Oh. There is nothing like that experience. I can taste it in my mouth right now. I want it. I gotta find a 7-Eleven near me.
I have a list of the best ones in the valley if you get up this way, because that's the kind of life I live. Hey, we're going to talk about some Star Wars news here in a bit, and I'll say not a lot. We are recording this on a Monday morning, releasing this episode a little bit later in the day, and then Skeleton Crew hits, so it's a Skeleton Crew week. We will have a live show on Tuesday, 9:30 Pacific, for about 30, 40 minutes. Jen and I are going to give our early reactions, our surface-level takes, our overview, if you will, take your questions, and then a deeper dive will come your way Wednesday. Joseph Scrimshaw is still out shooting a feature film. I actually checked in with him this week. We chatted. We got a fun comedy event that I'm going to be headlining in January, and Joseph will be a part of. More information on that. But things are going good. Stressful, but good. So he'll be back in the saddle with us the second week of Skeleton Crew, but we'll be holding down the fort this week. Before we get to all this, I'm going to let you know, as always, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles, and I'm sure more now, because we've been reading this copy for years. So for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, your iWatch, your iEyes, whatever you're listening or reading books on. We're recommending Aftermath by Chuck Wendig. Love that book. It got unfairly maligned for, just an early indication of what was to come in the social issues and the culture war in Star Wars. But also, it was misunderstood at times. And also, there was no main characters. You had a little Han. Yeah, you had a mention of Luke, mention of Leia, mention of Chewie, and little Chewie as well when they went back to Kashyyyk. But it was mostly introducing new characters and diving in deep on that. So I love the book. Check it out, Aftermath by Chuck Wendig. And download your free audiobook today, again, by going to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter, audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Help out the show. Get your free audiobook. Jen, we have locked in our 415 goal on Patreon. We're going to be doing that private live stream, as we keep saying, but we're still trying to reach another goal there on Patreon.
That's right. We are hoping to reach 420 patrons. I didn't say 420 this time. 420.
But I did.
On Patreon. We are so grateful to all of you who have already joined us. We'd love to have more join us. And then who knows what we might do. We should have like another fun goal when we reach 420.
Okay.
I don't know what. We'll keep it family friendly.
Yeah, I know what a lot of people are trying to suggest right now when you said that.
Yep.
But
Yep. We're not going to go there. As I've said before, maybe some brownies or baking, maybe ForceCenter cooking, baking.
I don't know if you're helping, Jen. When you're like, we don't want to do. We're not going to do 420. Anyways, I'm going to bake some brownies. What goes in the brownies? What's in the brownies?
Okay, no.
What's in the brownies? What's in the brownies?
It's the mix that I buy from the store.
There you go. There you go.
But yes, that is our new goal, and we will tune in to when Joseph comes back, and we'll figure out what our private live stream will be for our previous goal.
There you go. But we appreciate you all supporting on Patreon, and appreciate all of you following on Blue Sky. We are over there. We're on Threads. We're on Instagram, Facebook as well. Still on the other spot, but we're just holding space over there. We're not actually active there anymore. But on Blue Sky, man, last night alone, Jen, over 100 new followers on Blue Sky as I was sitting there playing Fortnite with our buddy Ken Plume. New map in Fortnite, new season. I'm looking over. I'm just getting all these notifications. ForceCenter jumped up a lot yesterday. We appreciate you getting us over 1,000 follows on Blue Sky. Let's go for more. We're having fun being active over there. And you're slightly active on Blue Sky.
I know. I have thoughts, and I do some drafts, and then I'm like, I get distracted, and I don't post it. I just got to go for it. It's Blue Sky. It's fun. Anything goes.
Look, I'll tell you what, not to turn this into a social media discussion, but towards the end of my run on the other spot, I'd post a link out, hey, new podcast, or hey, buy my book, or hey, doing a stand-up show. 2 likes, right? No one was seeing it. here, average, 40, 45 out of, it's just more people are seeing things. The Blue Sky algorithm works completely different. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. Thank goodness for
And it's
that.
not just about getting the word out, but it's about communicating. But for what we do in this line of work, you do need to get the word out. I still have people who occasionally slide into YouTube comments going, "Hey, what happened to you after Collider let you go in 2018? Where have you been for 6 years?" Oh, I've been here 4 shows a
my
week. 4 shows a
gosh.
week. Hi, I'm here.
What?
So
What?
it's good to get the word out.
That old place was terrible. It's depressing. Terrible.
Before we get to news, we like to do from time to time life adventures if we have them, and see where Star Wars finds their lives. And I've been doing this. First of all, I guess, Jen, it was Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
I had a low key Thanksgiving. Ordered some Thai food. Grace and I watched the movie Tombstone. Finally got her to watch one of my favorite movies of all time, Tombstone. She enjoyed it. Val Kilmer, great performance. And if Star Wars had been made in the mid '90s, like if George did his 7, 8, 9, I think there's a chance that Val Kilmer would have been in it. I don't know what else.
Yeah, I could see that.
He could have been Thrawn. Val Kilmer in 1993 could have been Thrawn.
Oh, now that's what I want. That's what I would want to see. Yeah. Wow.
There you go.
Different
Why,
timeline.
Luke Skywalker, you're an oak. So we had a good time. We had a good time on our Thanksgiving. Did you have a calm Thanksgiving?
Yeah, thank goodness to my husband, because he cooked. He made this delicious turkey. My mom came over. I worked on I have so much homework. I'm taking an audiology class and a phonetics. So I learned about hearing loss, frequency thresholds, air conduction, bone conduction, cochlear implants. That was literally my Thanksgiving. So
Okay, that seems scary. I don't like all that stuff.
it's overwhelming.
I have a little diminished hearing from my years as a radio DJ, where you put the headphones on and even now, my sound would hurt your head. It's got to
Really?
be, you got to have that mix of the music. That's why we have headphones. It's not for looks. It's for, you got to know what is going out to the world. And so
Right.
most radio DJs who did it for a long time, I did it for about 4 or 5 years, still on the air now, but a little different time. But back in the day, I got a little bit of the going on.
Well, unfortunately, it's with our age, and the first thing that go are actually like the consonants, the S, the T, those higher frequencies. So
See?
yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
glad you did that on Thanksgiving instead of had fun and relaxed.
But what did you do? Did you have a fun Star Wars life adventure?
So I've been rewatching Andor. I got really jazzed up when the news of Andor 2 coming in April, and just in the post-election haze, I just was like, I need a burst of political Star Wars. All Star Wars is political. I think the best version of it is in many ways Bad Batch, combining the pulp of Star Wars and the politics. And I think I have at time I can admit to having, and we'll talk about it today. I think there's sometimes Andor, the show, writing wise, has a little pretentiousness to it that I don't like, and I wish there was more aliens and all that kind of BS. But at the core, at the center of it, is one of the best shows out there, and definitely one of the best Star Wars things I think ever made. And I agree with those statements. And I kind of had forgotten that, Jen. And I've been doing this rewatch. I've been soaking it up. I love it. And I got to the One Way Out episode, the end of Narkina 5, and I'm on the treadmill. I'm just, not even fast. I'm doing 3.5. It's just a power walk. And I burst out crying when the jailbreak happens, prison break happens, and when Kino Loy, Andy Serkis is so good. We know this.
So good.
The little things, watching the acting, watching him every time he goes on program, he slicks back his hair that has been messed up. And just this choice to be like, no. I am in control. No. This facade is up. This facade is up. I've got to keep this. When my hair gets ruffled, I got to keep the facade up. I'm on program. I'm good. We're gonna get out of here. And the slow realization that they're not getting out of there, and the death of this Olaf and all this, and just Never More Than 12 is episode 9 that ends on. That's a great fist pumping moment. But to actually go through it and watch and him saying, having that great in the prison cell in his bed where he's just like, you see him just like, all right, this is it. I'm already dead. We're already. Yeah. I'm going with that choice. You choose how you're going to do this. I'm already dead. Everything else is icing on the cake at this point. And then everything about it. Jen, it caught me off guard. I just was on the now I'm on the treadmill like power walking and crying.
Oh no.
And that's what I love
Oh.
about the show. And all the little squibbles. I want to be honest about the squibbles I have with the show and my opinions on it and everything and how people use the show to bash other shows, blah, 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 blah. We'll talk about that today, I think, in some of our conversations. But Jed, I love Star Wars.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
all those moments hit you. And I love that Star Wars can still move you.
Yeah, that show is top tier. I got it. Now you're reminding me. I got to have my husband finish watching it because he really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I think the acting alone is so good. Every single person on that show, one-liners, right? Excellent, excellent. It raised the bar very high.
It is the thing. It is the thing. So anyways, that was my Star Wars adventure, life adventure. But that's that. You, or should we discuss the news?
Now let's get to the news.
Let's get to the news. And like I said, one story to discuss in this episode. The excitement, the focus is on Skeleton Crew. Like I said, we'll be live tomorrow and then a deep dive on Wednesday. The episodes air tonight. So I'll have Monday Night Football on one screen. Skeleton. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to watch Skeleton Crew. My Dolphins already broke my heart on Thanksgiving. I don't need to watch football this week. Let's get to the story. So there's a story. It came out, I think I'm reading from Variety. I don't know if that was the first spot. But Denis Villeneuve. You know Denis Villeneuve? Good old Dennis. Do you know Denis Villeneuve?
I'm glad you said his name. I didn't know. I've never actually heard it, I don't think, out loud.
I think I'm accurate with an 80% range, but back in the old Schmozno movie news days, I had to learn to say his name somewhat correct. I'm not saying, again, my American tongue can only go so far, but he is a French-Canadian filmmaker. And
French, there it is. Okay, got it.
There it is. And today's episode is Denis Villeneuve versus Ewoks. This is the story that I wanted to talk about because it popped up in our ForceCenter Discord. There was a nice, robust discussion about it. Director Denis Villeneuve was on the Town podcast and asked about doing a Star Wars film, as he was a Star Wars fan as a kid. And I think he has said that before. This has come up before. But he talked quite open and passionately about his love for Empire Strikes Back. But then he said this, Jen. The problem is that it all derailed in 1983 with Return of the Jedi. It's a long story. I was 15 years old, and my best friend and I wanted to take a cab and go to L.A. and talk to George Lucas. We were so angry. Still today, the Ewoks. It turned out to be comedy for kids. I want to discuss, he goes on to discuss some other things, but I want to stop right there, Jen, and just talk about it. Now, I'll say this. At least from my perspective, you're welcome to take a club and stick, however you want, and use it here. This isn't a debate about Denis Villeneuve. He is super talented. I don't gravitate to a lot of his movies. He is a great example of why I say I like fantasy over sci-fi, and Star Wars is more fantasy. But I love Blade Runner 2049. I'm not even super invested in Blade Runner, the movie, the franchise, the series, whatever you want to call it. Love that film. I think that was the film that proved to me that Dave Bautista was no longer a wrestler and was an actor first. And Harrison in a Target T-shirt. Love it all. But point, Jen, there's no need to turn this or anyone to think that we're here to say this dumb guy. He ain't dumb, and he's super talented. More than I'll ever be. So, Jen, that's my starting point. I pitch it to you. Where do you react to this? What's your Denis Villeneuve investment?
Yeah. I mean, with anything, I always say consider the source. And the source here is an incredible filmmaker who's incredibly talented. So, okay. But the funniest thing was, I think I saw this headline, and it's one of those things where I'm like, is this from the 1980s? Like,
yes.
We've already gone past this. Like, why is, and the fact that he held on to this for this long is just, I kind of admire that. There's something about where he's like, he wipes his hands of it. The Ewoks, that's it. No more Star Wars for me.
I'm so glad you said that. I want you to continue. I don't want to cut you off, but in our Discord, I jumped in late to the conversation. We always have some robust discussions, and I think it's 95% good-natured in our Discord. Some stuff springs up every now and then, and I wish it didn't, but it does. I said the same thing where I actually respect it because I clicked on the article expecting some of the stuff he says later, which we're going to talk about, which I don't necessarily disagree with, but don't fully agree with. We'll talk about it. He basically said Star Wars has no more surprises. Blah blah. We'll get to that. But the fact that it was all wrapped up in the Ewoks, I was like, oh, he's like one of those middle-aged, anti-Star Wars chuds. I love this. I love that he decided to stick with this. Again, super talented. Respect his opinion. Without a doubt, understand. But I was laughing. I was like, you know what? I respect it. Literally, I respect it. He's consistent to himself.
I love it. I mean, because it's like, it reminds me of my kids where I'm like, why don't you just try this? Nope. I'm done with it. I don't want to eat it anymore. I've had it. I'm sick of this thing. And I'm like, what? And the fact that like he's held on to this since he was 15, it must have been very traumatic for him. Very, I don't know. Like he's holding on to this grudge. That is kind of funny to me.
And it's not new. We've had this discussion here before. I have come around on the Ewoks in a major way, by the way. I'm here to defend the Ewoks from Villeneuve here. I'll sit across from him. We'll fire up the old movie fights show from back in the day, and I'll sit there with him and talk about the power of the Ewoks. But that's part of the conversation I want to have about him probably understanding what they mean, but not liking them still. But I want to, Joseph and I have discussed, I think you've been on board with the Ewoks all the time here, but Joseph's, like we're all in the same generation and age bracket, but Joseph's kind of, crossing big age barriers before me. And so he always says, I was in the theater for Empire. I had those 3 years to wait and think, and then the teddy bear show up. And I had a problem with it. So Denis Villeneuve is not saying something that hasn't been said for decades, like you said. Jon Favreau, without saying Ewoks, whether it's at Chicago 2019 or throughout the press for early Mandalorian stuff or on the Disney Gallery roundtable discussion, has talked about, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I mean, up until about 1983, I was working in a movie theater, girls, cars, and life was taking me away from Star Wars and, Ewoks. Like that's kind of what he's saying, without saying it super directly. He said that before. Again, in 2019, he said how he didn't like the prequels, but Dave's talking to him. And now look at what's going on with Mandalorian. I think there's a chance an Ewok will show up in the Mandalorian movie. I mean, it's possible.
So I really hope so.
Yeah, right? This is a new gen. So, but as an Ewoks, as a steadfast Ewok supporter, you're a stalwart in the Ewok community. What is your reaction in more detail? 2024 having to still deal with the damn Ewok slight.
I mean, I feel like I've had these conversations ever since the 80s with other fans being like, yeah, with all Empire's the best because the stupid, Ewoks and Jedi ruined it and blah, blah, blah. And here I'm having to defend it. And here I am again, still having to defend it against, talented filmmakers.
Award-winning filmmakers. Yeah.
But it's like, all right, so you don't like it. I get it. It's when he saw it, the age that he saw it at, and that age is very formative. And it you remember a lot, and those memories stick with you to where if he revisited now, like he would not. Oh no, I think he still would not like it. I just
think he would still be.
He still wouldn't like. I don't think that anything would convince him. I think you could come at it from different angles, and you say, "Oh, this is why," and it was to appeal to younger kids, and blah blah blah. Doesn't matter. He just it does not resonate with him, and that's okay.
And that's totally okay. And the quote, pulling out the quote here, I get him saying, we're so angry as 15, we wanted to drive from the Great White North down to LA and yell at George, where George wouldn't have been because they would have had to go up to San Francisco. But again, I get it, 15. The fact that he even says, still today, the Ewoks, it turned out to be a comedy for kids.
Oh.
That's where I'm like, I'm not here to argue with you. And let's not forget, Empire's pretty funny. Empire's perhaps the funniest. It's got some bogey and Bacall banter. It's got the 3PS stuff. It's got some humor. It is so many more things. I got it. But it's got Minox. It's got a space slug that's clearly a hand puppet. Like it's got a lot of things that I think get forgotten in the conversation about this dark and serious thing. But it is a dark and serious, somber film. Without a doubt, 12, 13 years old, 10, I think he says at the time, around the time. Yeah, without a doubt, you're at the perfect age, and then you hit that age, and you're like, why are these teddy bears doing these things? So I can't debate him. I can't take it away from him, Jen. But like, as Skeleton Crew is about to begin, this is still the battle we're having. I know, and it's interesting that he would ignore some of the greatest moments in cinema, between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. The fact that the Ewoks, his hate for the Ewoks would overshadow perhaps his love. I don't know how he feels about that battle. I mean,
I get it
Yeah.
though. I get it. If you watch it, sure, it can be a little silly and there are some, the physical comedy moments that are a bit hokey.
Hmm.
All right. That is very kind of quintessential 80s to me, but
Yeah.
it's like it should not discount the whole of the film, in my
It
opinion.
it is the tension of Star Wars. Joseph, again, we always love having Joseph around. I'm glad he's making a feature film. This would be a good discussion to have with him upon his return. The tension of Star Wars, the profound and the silly, is at its core. The serial adventure, the deep, dark, somber myth and study of just the human adventure and the human condition. Like, it's all present. George wanted, he and Gary Kurtz want to make Apocalypse Now. They were on that course, and it doesn't happen. And so George is like, you know how I want to address Vietnam? Ewoks. And Gary Kurtz, until his dying day, rest in peace, Gary Kurtz, hated it.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily it's a wrong opinion. I'm trying to like fumble in a football on a snowy day, like what to do with this thing of yes, it is for kids.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. The bigger thing.
Welcome to the party, pal. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Not to say that it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
But you can see when I watched it recently with a bunch of kids and you hear them going freaking out when Nanta, the big moment with Nanta,
Right.
and you hear kids going, "Oh no." Like, I mean, this is resonating with younger kids. Teenagers just in general are over it all. I mean, quite frankly, tweens are nowadays where they're already so jaded and cynical. So I'm not surprised that he didn't like Ewoks. But I would say, come on, give it a chance. Give it a chance. How do you feel
Denny.
about Nanta dying?
Yeah. You get this serious moment. What make Villeneuve sit down and watch it? Just pry open his eyes, Clockwork Orange style. Again, and he's not alone, and he's the focal point of our conversation. Super talented, so I respect his opinion on it there. But just looking at the Ewoks too, we just did our favorite Ewok moments ranked. You are known as an Ewok fan. Old friend of mine, Madeline Rue, great author. She's been a big Ewok fan. Was one of the people too, as well as you, to get me to look at them a little differently. And yeah, like I said, that guy's wise. Silly stuff. It is, and I'm not here to have a discussion about what George means by kids. We know it's 12-year-olds cusp of being adult and this and that, but we've had that conversation so many times. We get it. I don't know if Denny gets it. But about the Ewoks, what pulled you in early and what has kept you all these years, Jen, in the Ewok camp, almost quite literally?
I think it's Warwick Davis's performance as Wicket was brilliant. How he mimicked a dog that to me felt so familiar, right? Just like how cuddly they looked, and quite frankly, it was so much scary stuff was happening in that movie. Like, it was scary.
Great.
Our heroes were not safe. Our heroes were in danger, and having these furry warriors that they end up forming an allyship with, that to me was like, oh, okay, we're gonna be all right. It gave me some comfort because the rest of it, when I was a kid, I was terrified. I was terrified of the Emperor. I was terrified of everything, quite frankly, in that. I was even scared of like Jabba and his palace. I was like, I do not want to be there. The Rancor, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So the Ewoks are like something where it's like, oh, okay. They're moments of levity, which you need, right? There's moments of comedy. But I think that they're an important aspect of the film. But I was young when I saw it, so that's why I have a different appreciation for it.
But you pulled it forward, and you never pulled off of it. Were there points, I don't know, when you're in high school and, you're loving Star Wars, which is hard enough as, a young woman during that time trying to, hold on to that nerdy stuff, though. So your journey is a lot different than mine. But specifically on the Ewoks, what made you keep pulling them forward with your fandom?
I think it's complicated. For me personally, it's specific in that I like puppets. I love the Muppets. I love, Dark Crystal, Jim Henson, like all those things. I love practical effects. So to me, that's really what Return of the Jedi symbolized. And so it's like, it's weird, right? Empire
Yeah.
was what I would often say to people when they would ask me in high school, because I didn't want to, ostracize myself even more.
Sure.
It's like, no, Empire is the best one. But really, the patch I had on my backpack was Return of the Jedi, because it's just weird. All of it's weird, but fun. And so that's why I've carried it all these years.
Yeah.
But I do love Empire, and it is the best one.
Yeah.
In theory.
Look, we've been part of the film discussion world for a long time here, and I sometimes feel bad about some of the shows I was a part of that kind of set the tone and tenor, and I think in a bad way. But I have to do that too, and I understand it. ForceCenter here, we value caveats because we're here to say everyone's welcome to this table, and if you like Caravan of Courage, come on in here. If you like Rise of Skywalker, come on in here. We're going to talk in the second half of the show of what to do with some of your energy when you don't love a Star Wars thing. I hate having to do that thing where, oh man, I love Return of the Jedi. I mean, I apologize to you. Empire's the best. I am so sorry, but I love Return of the Jedi. It's like, I do that with Indiana Jones. I like Last Crusade more than Raiders of the Lost Ark. Raiders of the Lost Ark is better.
Wow.
But by whose measure? You know what I mean? Like, I have to do that all the time. What's your favorite indie movie? I really love watching Last Crusade. I mean, please don't leave. Raiders is the best. Raiders is the best. Raiders might be a perfect film. But like, Last Crusade came in at the right time in my life where it just pulled me into the adventure. And I'm tired of her apologizing for it.
Yeah, because that's what art is what resonates with you. We can look at it, and we'll talk about this more, but like, we can look at things like objectively and say, okay, this Raiders is like, by cinematic standards, like a perfect film.
Yeah,
but what resonates with you? What provides you that comfort or the thrill that you want to keep watching it over and over again? And for me, that's Jedi. That's Return of the Jedi. It has provided me so much comfort, and it's a specific time in my life. And I continue to have more and more positive memories. And not to say that you can't create new positive memories, which I have with my kids and, the Phantom Menace and Jar Jar and things like that. But that won't ever be what Jedi has been to me because of when I saw it. There's just not, you can't take away those years. Those happy times, those happy memories. Times.
Yeah, and for me, over the years, I think too, it's the jokes about the Ewoks become, I can see their zippers. They got slippers on or something like that. There was that kind of stuff. And it was just easy to bash. And we have as a society, we love to bash. It's easier to tear down than to build up. And then working with you and hanging out with my friend Madeline Rue, and she had an Ewok birthday party about 2014, 2015, where everyone dressed up as Ewoks, and we had the Caravan of Courage played on. I was just like, this is fun. And then I had that, I will say, and this I keep teasing the conversation to have. I just don't want to have it all right now. But John Favreau and Denis Villeneuve and anyone who is not approaching this with bad faith, and he's not. He's being honest. He says this. I mean, The Empire Strikes Back is the movie that I anticipated the most in my life. I saw the movie a billion times on screen. I was traumatized by The Empire Strikes Back. I adore Star Wars. Then he goes on to say how the Ewoks ruined it for him. That's his venture to have. But he's a smart cat. He's a smart cat. Yeah. But when I had that moment of realization, because this wasn't always present, you could see it on screen. Maybe if you're an adult, maybe if you're a political scientist in 1983, you could figure out what George was doing. But I don't think you can go back and find a Starlog interview or something to prove me wrong. But it's not about even proving me wrong. It wasn't as present. The conversation about what Star Wars was about through George's eyes, beyond the ads for kids. But him going, I'm talking about not just the Vietnam War. I'm talking about the Viet Cong. The communist sympathizers in the South part who were fighting alongside the North while we were fighting. That's Ewoks, man. And when I had that kind of, it's more, and I haven't engaged with it, and then I was really excited about engaging with it and finding out the meaning there, finding out what they represent, finding out taking that the political or the just the Vietnam War angle out of it. It's still about the least of us and how we are all connected. That's why I talk often about the Leia handing Wicket the food and the treat. It's a great, cute moment. A lot to what you're talking about, Warwick Davis. But it means everything. It means Leia's perspective the rebellion's perspective versus the Empire's. It's huge. So I love engaging with on that level. But, I get what they are. But once the Chief Chirpa, how did he get into power? Who's next? What's Logray doing? Why is he whispering in Chirpa's ears? Who is Logray? We need to know. That just becomes part of the fun of exploring it. And I want to sit him down and go, dude, I think you'd love this. But I don't think he'll ever will. Number one, I never get the chance to talk to him. But two, you can't convince someone of that. And there's no need to.
You know what? I know who could convince him. And I want to see this discussion between two directors. I want to see Denis Villeneuve.
Villeneuve, yeah.
And I want to see Guillermo del Toro talking to him because I know Guillermo gets it. He appreciates Jedi. He was going to do the Jabba the Hutt movie. I think that is more his style, his sensibility. He gets it. And if anyone could convince him, it would be him. These two directors hashing it out over Return of the Jedi. I think that Denny would have walk away with some appreciation.
Yeah.
Because look, at the end of the day, like, it's a risk what George did to try and tell this story with the Viet Cong and Vietnam. That is a huge risk. And I applaud anyone that takes a risk and does not play it safe. And Denny should too. So that's why I think you should like the Ewoks, Denny, or at least appreciate Return of the Jedi.
Good pitch and transitions into my next thought here, Jen. What do we feel? I'll read the quote here, but what do we feel about when he says Star Wars has no surprises? Here's what he goes on to say here. He slights the Ewoks, and then he says, after Return of the Jedi. Again, he's not talking about Force Awakens. He's after Return of the Jedi. The Star Wars franchise became crystallized in its own mythology, very dogmatic. It seemed like a recipe, no more surprises. So I'm not dreaming to do a Star Wars film because it feels like code. It feels like code is very codified. Codified, whatever you want to say, however you want to say it. So here's where I disagree, but I agree.
Okay.
And it becomes, exactly what you're talking about. Return of the Jedi is a, happy, scrappy ending. Everyone wins. There's fireworks. But George got there. The structure, I've heard it remarked before. There's a short film before Return of the Jedi called Jabba's Palace. It's the story of rescuing Han and Luke's plan and all that stuff. Check out Joseph's Star Wars counseling from years ago about Luke's plan and everything. But then it gets into the story.
Right.
George didn't care about that. Phantom Menace, he didn't care about 3-act structure. The main character was Qui-Gon. Anakin comes later. And I think you're right. There was some risks with Return of the Jedi, just in the sense of George doing what he wants. And that was part of the surprise. But what's your gut reaction to this overall, there are no surprises, Star Wars is a recipe that is lather, rinse, and repeat?
I see his point. I'm going to try and say this diplomatically. I see his point, and I also disagree. Yeah. And I think that is one of this new era of Star Wars is that there is so many different types of stories being told. And for me personally, even within a show, one episode can feel very formulaic. And then the next episode of a show can blow my mind, right? Yeah. So it's like I give Star Wars a lot of grace because, I think one of the challenges is when you do have this canon, you are going to be boxed in a little bit more. There are going to be things that we expect or quite frankly know as fans. And so maybe it may not seem as surprising. Yeah. But Andor, the whole thing was a shock to me. It was very surprising. Yeah. But there's also been some things in The Mandalorian that have been truly groundbreaking and surprising as well. So I don't know. I kind of feel like, I don't want to say this is a cheap shot, but it kind of I don't think that that's fair to throw it at Star Wars. I personally think it's fair to throw it at other properties and fandoms, but I'm not going to go there. I don't want to set too many fires.
I'll go there slightly. I'm not a giant MCU fan.
Okay.
I love a lot of the stuff that's there. I love a lot of the performers. I'm not here to debate how they look. I know some people don't love the look. And sometimes, but you can't have a practical Iron Man suit. So what are we talking about here? But a lot of times I would say, and I'm owning that it's completely cynical of me. I didn't grow up with these comics. I focused on other things. I focused on Star Wars. So I'm not invested in it in the way my friend Matt Key is. So it to me was always first act, second act, I'm in, and then a messy big fight in the third act, and I kind of my eyes glaze over, and then the movie ends, and then I wait for the commercial and the credits for the next one. Right? That's very cynical of me to say. It is not fair of me to say, but from a moved back kind of position, that's my feel of it. And I think Denis Villeneuve has a moved back kind of position, and a lot of people do. So they look at the modern era of Star Wars, or they even look at from Return of the Jedi on, and they say there's no surprises. And I get overall, because I'll talk about that, but I don't think it's fair.
No, it's not fair. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's
like, how do I phrase this in a way that's not insulting? Because I mean, formulaic can be helpful, like for especially for like kids. It can be very, very helpful because it's why we like, grew up on the sitcom structure, right? Or like the 1 hour dramas, and then everything is tied up with a bow at the end, and then onto the new episode, right? And now storytelling is a little bit different, and people want to be edgy, and they want to have cliffhangers and all these different things. Not that there weren't cliffhangers back in the day, but it just feels very different. So having some formula to it is okay. It's okay to have a formula to some extent.
I think, and I think, look, and Kathleen Kennedy has talked about the guide rails of Star Wars, which I think can be misconstrued. And I really, really believe in my heart that she's talking about the myth, the moral, the perspective of Star Wars. Yeah. And you can push up against it. But what's even George himself, without a doubt, I've had conversations with people in his family. Without a doubt, there's this sense that definitely 7 was super, super safe. And I don't think that's wrong. But we even on ForceCenter did do our deeper dive years ago. Go check it out. I'll try to find the audio link and put it here on the YouTube side. But Force Awakens introduces a lot of new ideas. But it has a sand planet. It has X-Wings attacking a big ball of death. And it was a soft reboot of the franchise for a new generation. And I could definitely see, I have friends who are, again, this is about good faith conversations. I have friends who are not in on modern Star Wars, or definitely not in on Force Awakens, because they feel as though it didn't take chances. I do think it was safe, and that's not a bad thing in a modern era of big tentpole filmmaking, but it introduced a lot of new things. And then those same people then point to The Last Jedi as disrupting it. But really, Last Jedi is breaking apart Star Wars and putting it back together to go, this matters. Let's analyze this. This is what, again, we miss Joseph in this part of the conversation, his insights. But then those same people will say, God, Disney's run out of ideas. Lucasfilm's run out of ideas. They're doing a series on Kenobi. And what happens in the Kenobi series? It starts with a mass murder of children. It to the point where it has to be, we have to put warnings up on it. It asks the question, hey, what if he did leave the planet? And what if it was for Leia? And what if we dive into that side of it? That's a big surprise. And those same people will see, they broke canon. And it's just this frustrating, circular conversation that's about perspectives.
Right. That's a very good point. I think another challenge for people who are not in Star Wars and who are on the outside is they might see it as formulaic just because there are a lot of legacy characters that appear, and so like Luke showing up in Mandalorian, they're like, oh, of course, here we go again, or, rehash, retreading, whatever you want to say. But we know, we're like, well, no, that makes sense that he would be there because we understand
he'd be the guy.
Right, he'd be the guy. This is the canon, and that's why canon is good, even though it does kind of box you in at times. But we understand the surprise is exciting because he should be there. But an outsider may not get that.
It's surface level stuff, and it drives me slightly crazy. And this is what Joseph and I have done the big, looking for connections and whether or not you gravitate towards Rise of Skywalker before other people. It's one of my favorite films to watch. Again, I have to qualify that, right? I have to say the Rise of Skywalker is my favorite of the sequel films to watch. Oh, but don't worry, Last Jedi is better. Like I have to do that crap all the time. Where that's the movie I love to sit down and watch because it feels like Star Wars to me in a way the other films don't. And even feels like Star Wars is a very relative term based on your own perspective. But having to sit there and go, no, J.J. Abrams did not go into Reddit. He did not look at all the things. They didn't have this sit-down meeting of let's check. He and Chris Terrio told the story they wanted to tell or could tell. and there's a lot of wonderful connections, thematic connections. But that's not easy to pull into because on the surface, yeah, Palpatine's back. The explanation is wishy-washy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and that's one of those, you're not wrong, but maybe try to engage on a deeper level, which is one of the things we try to do here. But that's this part of it was the most frustrating. The Ewok thing I can deal with, Jen. But there are no surprises left. We just had the Acolyte come along and push the boundaries to the point where I think people misunderstood what Star Wars says about the Jedi Order. Where people misunderstood what George, I got some friends who are like, without a doubt, The Last Jedi is a movie about trying to leave the past behind. That is incorrect. That is wrong. That's the wrong take from that movie. That is you stopped the VHS tape at the end of the second act and didn't see the rest of the film. That is the villain trying to absolve himself of so many things by saying we cannot take the past with us. We have to entirely destroy it as opposed to answer it. And it goes in deeper. And then Luke starts with the Jedi gotta die, ends with I'm not the last one. It's very clear. So whether or not you like the movie or not, there is a right or wrong answer about the interpretation of it. The execution of it can be up for debate. But that's why I'm frustrated with these kind of statements from very intelligent people. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The Acolyte just pushed the boundary, says you love that series for it.
I love that series, but people would say that there are too many surprises, too many things that were not Star Wars and not predictable. And it's like, well, okay. And so that's one of the problems with this clickbaity quotes, which is not his fault.
It's not his fault. He's asked what he's saying. Asked and answered. Yeah.
Yeah, asked and answered. But it's like people are going to take this and be like, see, he says that the Disney era of Star Wars sucks. It's like, well, no, actually, he's saying
it's the George era.
The George era, exactly. He stopped after Empire, so very different. So but well.
It also, we'll take a break here. This speaks to one of the things that is near and dear to my heart. That this is art. It's pop art. It's fun art, it's kids art, it's serious art, it's traumatizing art with Empire, but it's art. And the fact that we remove perspective and subjectivity from the conversation is a problem now. It has been a problem for a while. And it boxes you in. It's a prison that we're locked into. And we're going to talk more about that. Any final thoughts on defending the Ewoks? We'll take a quick break, Jen.
No, but boy, if I was still doing red carpet things, I would absolutely ask him about the Ewoks. Oh, I would. Ash, if she ever comes across him, please ask him for us.
You just gotta. I'm reaching for my little microphone. It's gone. Hold the microphone up. Denis Villeneuve, do you like the Ewoks? Why do you hate the Ewoks so much?
Exactly.
All right. Thanks for hanging with us so far. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and talk more about Denis Villeneuve, Ewoks, and the surprises of Star Wars. Stick around for more ForceCenter. Welcome back. I'm Ken. That's Jen. We've been doing Ken and Jen in the mornings here on ForceCenter for a couple weeks.
That's right, Ken.
That's right. While we hold down the fort, while Joseph makes his feature film, Dead Media, which you can still support. He's almost wrapped on production, but that means post-production shows up and, a lot more expenses and needs. And reshoots will pop up. So you can support Joseph's film by going to josephscrimshaw.com. From there, there's links to information on how you could support the film and make the budget grow during production there. All right, Jen, I'm going to admit something. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to where I want to go with this conversation.
Oh, boy. I know. Do I want to be how like Angela Bassett and Waiting to Exhale? I'm walking away.
Walking away? Okay.
Yeah.
No, go with me.
Okay.
No. Okay. We don't have to belabor this point.
Okay.
Covering this news story and putting down some notes for it this weekend and wanting to defend the Ewoks and wanting to kind of push back on some of the stuff Denis Villeneuve said in this interview. Again, asked and answered. Not his fault. Love it. He's super talented. This isn't a debate about his resume. Yeah. And quite frankly, I'd love to see a Star Wars film. It'd probably be Andor-like and different, and who knows? I would like to see that if he was ever to do it. It doesn't look like that will happen. And again, I get it. He's not wrong. We're talking about big budget studio pictures with stockholders and shareholders and all. It's a different, frustrating era, and he's an independent even in the big studio systems. But here's where I went with Jen. He is clearly smart. Mm-hmm. And I want to sit down and have a fictional beer with him and be hey, man, you're wrong about this. But my instinct is to explain what the Ewoks mean to me or what George was trying to say with it. But at the end of the day, he's going to go back to, got it. I'm not some idiot. I'm not coming at this with bad faith. I am coming from my personal perspective. It's subjective. And I don't like them. And I don't like this film. And I don't like Star Wars now. Mm-hmm. And I can't change that. And it has been a pretty good road here on ForceCenter for years. We have some approaches that we have. We have the ways we discuss it. And it's all worked for me. But then a moment happened where, for the first time ever, I legitimately did not like something that Star Wars had put out. Mm-hmm. And we have a way to discuss it here on ForceCenter. And I hold to that because I'm here about other people. I'm not here just about my opinions. But Ahsoka comes out. We've talked about it. I was in a bad spot maybe, post or during the strike. Everything was a little up and down. But man, I didn't take to it. And I understood everything about it, right? Mm-hmm. Within 90%. I understand what the story was. I like the story. There's some great moments, great characters. Baylan Skoll's one of my favorite. I think it's some of Hayden Christensen's best performances as Anakin. I think there's some intriguing stuff there. I'm there for a lot of it. But overall, I walked away with, for the first time ever, I like it. And then the rug was pulled out, Jed, and now I don't know what to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Because no one can convince me, just like I can't convince Denny. And I think you've struggled with that too.
I do. And, over the weekend, my husband showed me, he's like, Rotten Tomatoes the critics put out their best movies from the past 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I was looking at the rankings. I'm like, well, no, that should be higher. Oh, that should be lower. Right. But I can look at that list and I can say, well, I understand why these films were chosen. Because lots of people look at it and say, this is why this is good cinema. Acting, the writing, the act structure, whatever you want to say. Okay. The Matrix is on that list. Yeah. Parasite is on that list. Now, with something like, say, Ahsoka, you're not going to ever convince me that it is a masterpiece. And look, that's fine. That's fine.
It's the caveat.
If you see it, If you see it as
no film is perfect, but yeah.
Yeah, if you see it as a masterpiece, I respect that. You can tell me, but you're not going to change my mind. And I think that there's something really important that I've been learning about, which is theory of mind. This is something that we develop. Not everyone does, by the way. Not everyone develops this by the age of 6, where you understand that people have different beliefs than you, different opinions than you, and that's okay. Okay? So there's a lot of people who don't ever develop this, and there's nothing wrong with that, but it just takes those people to learn that I don't like Ahsoka. You don't have to convince me to your side. There's lots of things that I can find within it. I would never say that I hate it. Is it, I have a limited amount of time. What am I going to put on? I might put on Return of the Jedi. I might put on Andor. I might put on these other things. For me, Ahsoka, Hayden Christensen was fantastic. There's so many great moments. But overall, it didn't hit me the way that other Star Wars stories have. And that's okay.
Yeah. Absolutely okay. And it rattled my fandom for a bit. And part of the reason it did, I'm trying to pull the curtain back here on just now close to really 12 years, 10 years of ForceCenter, but Jedi Alliance before that, producing the Schmoes No Movie podcast and being on air. Our episode, I think, Matt Mercer was the guest. This is how long ago this was. My buddy Matt Mercer was on the show Schmoes and then that morning, the sale happens. And we had to change the topic and talk about Star Wars in a new era and everything. So we've talked about this for a long time. I've always approached and will continue to approach Star Wars discussion as let's celebrate the greatest saga ever told. Are you on board for this? Does it bring you joy? Does it light up your life? Does it inspire you? Do you just like having it on? Then let's celebrate that. That has changed over the years. From in the beginning, especially on Jedi Alliance, it was me and Maude talking about that stormtrooper that bumps his head. It's talking about our favorite X-Wing pilot. It's talking about the Y-Wings. It was talking about that stuff. We didn't connect with it on a deeper level. It was the connections were there, but we had that kind of view. We took a little part of celebrating Star Wars was making a little joke, taking a little shot at that silly line read or Luke's phantom kick in Return of the Jedi and all that stuff. That's part of buying the ticket. And then things started to change as the discussion world grew. This cottage industry sprung up, And I found myself working on other channels, going to Screen Junkies and on Collider and on Jedi Council. And I found myself after a while no longer just there to celebrate Star Wars. I found myself there to defend Star Wars. And that, after a while, has become a problem for me in the sense of I'll burst into tears watching Star Wars. I watched the trailers again last week. Like, just of all, like, I'm going to watch the Attack of the Clones trailer. I get misty it. Like, this stuff is in my heart. It always will be. But I feel, and it's not about ForceCenter. ForceCenter's been about celebrating. Then we kind of had this era of let's do a deep dive. And then I think there's a little bit of like, we need to hold the line because there's a lot of bad faith actors, and that can't be ignored. And Star Wars became part of the discussion. And I learned that full front 2017 of being one of the people on a show, on a panel show going, oh, I liked Last Jedi. Man, that opened up a lot. I'm not a hero. It's the easy thing to do. But you know what I mean, Jen? It was just like, oh, this is a different conversation. But in having to hold the line and defend Star Wars, I've become just I've become an asshole, Jen. Off air. You're not a person you want to. I'm not a person you want to discuss Star Wars with.
Yeah.
Because if you expressed even a moment of doubt to me, yeah, Book of I like Book of Boba Fett. I don't know, it was a little weird. Not my Boba Fett. And I will turn to you and I get red. And I've not been fun to be around when Star Wars discussions are happening because I'm dealing with this big ideal of defending Star Wars. And after a while, Jen, maybe Star Wars doesn't need defending. Star Wars just need to be celebrated again. And I think Ahsoka shook me loose in a sense of I need to defend Star Wars overall. I need Ahsoka overall. But I also would like to express that I think some of the writing was really bad. I think the clamped-down style of Dave's show running led to some bad directing and acting. And it rubbed me so wrong way that I didn't enjoy the series. Like, I want to be able to discuss that in places. And does Denis Villeneuve come and open all that up in me, Jen? I don't know what to do with it. How was your fandom affected, or was it affected when, along the way, things, because of life, because of this, you were open last week about the trailer for Force Awakens comes out, and you weren't in a I love Star Wars mood.
Right. And it's one of those things where it feels like I have to, and I've mentioned this before, I've had to clutch onto it because Star Wars has not just been my fandom and my escape. It's also been my job in, working with Lucasfilm for the blog and for on-camera stuff. And I really felt like I could not express all of my opinions because, and I've worked for Disney in the past. They don't like it when you say negative things, even if it's like a movie reviewer, like a Siskel and Ebert type, saying something negative. They don't like that. And I understand. Of course, you want positive publicity. You don't want to amplify people that are being critical. Yeah. And so at this point in my life, though, I'm like, listen, this is art. This is entertainment. They're not paying me. You want to pay me? Okay, then I'll only say positive things, but I have to be truthful. And what I love about art is that we can debate it and we can say it doesn't work for me, but I liked this part of it. I'm never going to be the type of person that's like what we see online where they just a blanket statement, it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say something like that. I'm going to point to specifics. And I would hope that if somebody dislikes The Last Jedi, that they would say, or The Acolyte, that they say it in a more nuanced way. Yeah. Give me specifics. We can have fun debating because that's what it is. I'm like, you guys, this is entertainment. And if it's not providing me an entertainment value and I'm not enjoying watching it, why am I going to force myself to watch it? Yeah. I mean, I do because that's what we talk about, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like,
but also I want to, right?
I want Star Wars to be something that I want to enjoy, not that I have to. That doesn't ever feel good, right? But at the same time, I don't want to yuck someone's yum, as I tell my kids. Yeah. But here's the thing. This is ForceCenter. This is our show. I'm here sharing my opinions. Or like if I go online and I share my opinions, I love The Last Jedi. If you come into my mentions and start saying, you suck, you're stupid for liking Last Jedi. Well, now you're yucking my yum.
Yeah.
If you want to say, that's interesting. Here's why I didn't like it. That's different. right? I feel
Yeah.
like that's different than just outright saying,
Yeah.
you're dumb. And I would never personally attack someone
Right.
based on what they like. This is movies and fun. It's Star Wars, not politics.
It's human
But it
nature,
is.
but we've gamified all that. We've gamified the politics of it too, and because again, you're
Right.
going to hold the line. We're in an interesting time politically because here's to get in and just to get into some stuff. And I'm sorry, you don't need to step into this arena if you don't want to, Jen. I'll be the one discussing it. In general, the Republican Party has done a great job since the era of Goldwater and before. I've mentioned this before on shows, and even here. But the young Democrat Kennedy wins 60, beats the establishment. Then you got he's assassinated, but Johnson wins in 64 was a landslide. And the Republican, after the party switch in the 50s, where the Democratic Southern Democrats become the Republican Party of the modern era in a roundabout way, they have done a great job of building mistrust against the institutions that are above us, right? And since Goldwater, small government, all these kind of things, free market, all these go on and on and on. But they've done it out of this, don't regulations, take those regulations off. He's not the only one. My radio career was ruined by Clinton deregulating radio. It's across the board, and a lot of Reagan's ideas were taken from Carter's ideas, and Carter was not a successful president. Great guy, legend, still taking the time of this recording, barely, but a legend. But Reagan did such a good job of mistrusting. Ghostbusters is a libertarian's dream about the big enemy being the EPA. The Environmental Protection Agency is the enemy in Ghostbusters. It is the big government coming in. And so what happens is there's some truth in that. And look at what's going on talking about our health. There's some chemicals in our food here in America that I wish weren't there. Right. But that doesn't mean I want an anti-vaxxer, anti-masker running the health department, as is currently set to maybe happen if the nominee gets through, RFK Jr. Yeah. But there's some truths there that I agree with. How can I go to Paris and eat an entire large cheese pizza and not even get heartburn because they're picking it from a cow down the road and not adding anything? I can't even have a piece of bread in America. I'm down with heartburn for 4 days. What's going? Blah blah blah. How's Diet Coke illegal here? It cleans my battery in this country. What do we do? So there's some truths there, but they built up the conspiracies around it. All this is filtered into our discussions here, where I feel as though I can't give ground. If I'm on a panel show, as I was in the Collider days, there's some good folks there, some opinions. We had a lot of fun. But there were sometimes I'd be sitting on a panel looking across and hearing some of the stupidest things I've heard about Star Wars. And if I gave any ground, I lost the debate. And I'm here to defend Star Wars. But in that, I think I've been trapped in a prison of not being able to say with good faith, you know what? I think this scene in Ahsoka did nothing to move the story forward, and that's bad writing.
Right.
And now we gotta, now we're here having Villeneuve say this thing where I'm like, he's not wrong, but he's not right, and now I feel as though I can't fully explain why. And maybe I'm just venting, Jen.
No, you're so right about the whole culture war aspect of it, because I don't want to side with those people that say that the Disney era of Star Wars sucks. I don't want to give them any fuel to their stupid fire, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't believe in toxic positivity, and I don't think it's fair to anybody listening that we lie.
Yeah.
Or hide it or be ashamed of it. No.
Right. I never have, but yeah.
No, we never have. But part of the reason that things have become more heated online with these ridiculous YouTubers is that I feel like if I say anything negative, it's like it feeds into their monetization of hate.
To go to what I was talking about, the political system, the Democrats over the years have been forced to defend a system that's flawed.
Right, exactly.
And to say, no, it's working great. Keep giving us your faith. I mean, yeah, eggs are expensive, but so it does filter down to this, where you don't feel like you're giving ground, you're defending not a system that's flawed, but look, you and I'm interested by the Kinberg news. I'm also kind of scared by it. Is Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy going to direct this film now? Because I think she needs to, and I want her to. Is she going to be moved up? What's going on? And you don't have a lot of faith, and I'd like to be able to express, and we do express it here. And look, we've never. That's the other thing too, Jen. The looks I get when I'm like, oh God, I love Book of Boba Fett, and the blank stares, the mouths that drop. Huh?
I know.
Or when I go, oh, I love the prequels. What? Well, we determined that they sucked in 1999. What happened? We didn't revise that.
Right, right. Right. No, and for me and for us, we would rather spend our time celebrating things that we love because it's just more enjoyable. I'm not
Yeah.
like that guy, yelling into about everything Star Wars. Women and Mary Sue's. Like
And the
that's
bricks
just
and the
not.
screws.
Yeah, I'm like, please, like we got bigger things to worry about.
Well, and that's always and to crystallize our own focus. What Villeneuve said to codify the codes, whatever he wants to say, to put us on guide rails. I'm way more interested in hearing about what you love about Ahsoka. I was way more interested week to week to hear what you loved about Acolyte in a series that I also was so looking forward to, loved, wish it was still going, love Leslie Headland, think she's a great Star Wars creator. But some of the things didn't sit well with me. But every week, tuning in to hear how you were moved by it on a level that I couldn't even comprehend is more valuable to me than just my thoughts. But I want to have them, and I have them.
Yeah, of course. Of course. That's what makes us fans. I mean, people who don't enjoy Star Wars don't really engage or discuss it in the way that we all discuss it. They're like, yeah, it was fine. Or they forget about it after they go to the movie theater. It's like... Yeah. This is why we are in this fandom, because we want to celebrate and debate and be critical and say why this didn't work, but this is amazing. That's just what we do as fans. And so it's okay. It's all right if not everything resonates with us at the Star Wars buffet.
Yeah. I think we all know when you need to hold the line and defend the rights or the existence of people in the political realm. But I think we also can realize when you're having that, maybe that system, maybe this program's not working. We need to find a better way. And I think that could be, it is possible in Star Wars. And something we've always wanted to bring here, and I think we have, it's just, this Villeneuve thing, Jen, opened up this floodgate of, I can't convince him he's wrong because he's smart. He's intelligent. He probably has great media literacy skills, not like the other folks that I have to feel I'm yelling at because I'm defending this overall thing. But also, for the first time in my life in 2023, in a real sense, not like, prequels suck. I don't know, Eopie farts on Jar Jar. I hate Star Wars now. Not that bull roar from my earlier days. But the first time in my modern life where I have a deeper understanding of Star Wars, I talk about it weekly. I've written about it. All the themes in the world couldn't get me to engage with Ahsoka. It did in other folks. We have passionate Ahsoka fans in the ForceCenter community that I absolutely love to hear about. I love to hear their ideas. But this broke me a little bit, Jen, this weekend. I got to admit, the Villeneuve story broke me a little bit. I don't know what to do with it.
What would Tony Gilroy do? You think Tony Gilroy would be like, I like Ahsoka? No, I'd be like, I'm guessing he probably would not like it, Because, right?
Gilroy, he is fascinating.
Yeah.
That Nepo baby is fascinating. And he's a Nepo baby. He is... And all his writers. That staff of writers, which include his brother and the editor, his brother, keep it in-house. In watching it's more Star Wars. Our friend Brian Ward, we quote him a lot. Great T-shirt designer. Check out his stuff. You know Brian Ward. He said Andor is for Star Wars fans that are embarrassed about being Star Wars fans. And I really stand by that.
Wow.
Because it's Denis Villeneuve. Denis Villeneuve, you thought you were a cool sci-fi loving kid coming out of Empire Strikes Back, and then you get to Return of the Jedi and you were embarrassed about the Ewoks.
Yeah.
And you were embarrassed to go to your friend and said, I like the teddy bears. And maybe you don't actually like the teddy bears, but that's part of it. And that's feels, but in rewatching Andor, Star Wars is all the way through it. It just comes off as you feel as though someone else had to put it there. But Tony took it into new surprising. I thought this was going to be a spy thriller. Joseph and I were looking forward to Stephen Schiff's spy thriller that was more, akin to what we are used to, and it was a big surprise, and it worked. Didn't work viewership wise. No, but it's worked. Tony's been bragging leading up to season 2. I got no notes. Yeah. I'm so good. I got no notes. And my view of Star Wars was to take it down to the chefs and the cooks, and take it out of the legends, which I think was a great idea. But then he frames it as that makes mine more real, which is a backhanded compliment. So I get frustrated with that. But yeah, but he also knows Star Wars Rebels backward and forth. That's why the Gorman situation is going to be big in Andor season 2 because he's aware of it. So he's plugged in. And I would love to have conversations with those kind of folks who are more plugged in than they care to admit.
Yes, exactly. Wow, that's interesting.
Well, Jen, we may have lost all of our fan base today.
No,
poor
please.
Joseph's going to come back to a dumpster fire of people mad at you and I.
Well,
but I feel.
Listen, we love Star Wars. It's why we're here week after week. We love Star Wars. We love the weird, the tiny details, the everything.
Yeah.
It's normal if we may not like a couple things, a few things, or if a show didn't resonate with us. I don't know. And it's not to say that maybe 10 years from now, I may love Ahsoka and be eating my words. Just like I've eaten my words after blowing up my Jar Jar action figure. I am sorry for the kind of content I put out before.
I don't think
we're not even going down that road.
We're not.
I mean, listen.
I never bring it up because I don't even know if it's on your YouTube channel. I don't even know if it's still a video people can watch.
I deleted it. Yeah.
Okay. But that's how I always talk about how I found you in 2014. Found you. You were successful on your own, but I don't mean to sound it like that. But I was looking for that guest for Jedi Alliance and eventual co-host because we knew Maud was leaving. You started popping up my algorithm, and that was one of the early videos I watched, and I was like, "This is great."
Yeah.
But I wouldn't. I'm with you.
I have come very far, thanks to my children. I saw the genius, and it was never against Ahmed Best. It was not his fault, but it was just like what I was like. I was mad at George, and I wanted to take a taxi to LA and go yell at him when I was 15 years old, or I wasn't 15, but you know what I mean. So I've come around, and it's all right. People change, and that's
people change.
Okay. That's good.
Absolutely is the truth. People change, and that's part of what we're here. But we're here to celebrate Star Wars. I want to hear, if you love Ahsoka, you love Rise of Skywalker, you love Book of Boba Fett, you love Andor, you love Acolyte. We want to hear what makes you love these things versus what didn't work. We'll take care of that in our own way, as we always have. We're going to start reviewing Skeleton Crew this week. Live show tomorrow, like I said. Deep dive on Wednesday. Joseph comes back, and we're going to dive deep as we can into this silly little kid show that is Goonies and E.T. in space, and I can't wait for that, Jen. So that's it. All right. I feel good enough, I think. We'll find out.
It's all right. We have each other.
Yes. And Neil. We have you, me, and Neil from Skeleton Crew.
That's right. Neil?
Neil. We got the age of Neil has begun. He's stealing the hearts of everyone in Star Wars. All right. Hey, you can find us in a lot of spots on social media at ForceCenter Pod. Blue Sky is the best spot right now. ForceCenterPod.bsky.social is where you can find us there. Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. On Instagram, YouTube. Hey, if you're on YouTube, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that way you can get alerted when I go live vertically or when any of us go live vertically. It's possible. You just flip up your phone and you start going live, Jen. Every Monday, I've been trying to go live about 9:15, 9:20 a.m. Pacific time to give kind of an overview of the week ahead in Star Wars and take your questions. So that's on our YouTube page. We're available as a podcast in a lot of spots. Just search, you'll find us. Merch available at 2 spots, tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. Get some great Brian Ward design things there. Or on Fourth Wall, our link is down below in the YouTube page there. Patreon.com/ForceCenter is where you can support us. I'm at Ken Napzok. And my website, kennapzok.com. Big show coming in January. Going to be a lot of fun. More information on that. So if you're local in LA, get ready on January 10th for another fun event. Jen, where can they find and follow you?
You can find me on Blue Sky at Jennifer Landa, whatever the Blue Sky handle is. Instagram, same handle. And TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
There it is. All right. A lot of fun, I think, discussing this. But here at the end of the day, if you love the Ewoks, great. If you don't, great. We're just happy we're here celebrating Star Wars. See you next time. Bye.